Hello, this video is to help you identify what type of storage heater you have and how best to use it. This storage heater is a Dimplex fan assisted storage heater. As you can see, it has a grill at the bottom. To the left there are two switches. One is peak rate and one is off peak. So one is expensive and one is cheap, not to be confused with day and night rate. Day rate is supplied 24 hours a day, which is light bulbs, washing machines, things like that. And the night rate is 7 hours during the off-peak period, which is normally 11:30 to 6:30. This can vary depending if your electric meter has an incorrect clock. This heater is designed to charge up on the off-peak and heat up the bricks on the inside, and then slowly release that heat during the day. The peak rate supply is designed to be used when that runs out, and then it can be turned on with a rocker switch and it heats an element and creates instantaneous heat. The rocker switch is located here. The storage heater part of this night storage heater uses the cheap electricity. This is thermostatically controlled with these buttons here. On the left you have the input and then the room temperature. So this one here is the room temperature, and this one here is how much charge the storage heater takes. So this is a rudimentary thermostat, and it will click in and click out depending on what you've got it set to, and it's numbered from 1 to 6. You can't set a temperature like 21 degrees, that's on the newer models. The button, the dial on the right hand side, which is this one, is how much heat or electricity goes into the bricks at night. So if it's very cold, set it to 6. If it's not so cold, 3 or 2. The rocker switch on the side, like I said before, uses the peak rate expensive electricity and ideally should be always turned off. This storage heater is a Dimplex Cxl SN. Just an XL really. You can identify this because it hasn't got a grill at the bottom and it's only got one supply. This single supply will be off-peak, which will cost normally around about half of what the day rate costs. In cold weather, turn him on, and in hot weather, turn it off, unlike the new Dimplex Quantums. The dials on the top are input, which is this one, and output, which is that one. The output opens a damper, like a lid, and lets the heat come out more, as it will leak anyway. They will be hot to touch in the mornings after they've spent the night charging because they're leaking heat. The dial on the right is the input, how much electricity goes in to heat those bricks. Generally, when it gets to about 10, 11 o'clock, the heaters will be cold because they've been leaking heat all day. They will only take a charge from 11:30 at night to 6:30 in the morning, depending on what time your electric meter says it is. But it's generally 7 hours of economy electricity. This storage heater cannot use the expensive day rate electricity. You may have one of these. This is a panel heater and does not store any heat. It will only use the day rate electricity, which is the expensive electricity. On the right is a timer dial, and on the left is the thermostat. The thermostat is labelled from 1 till 6, and it's not digitally controlled like 21 degrees or 18 degrees. You have half power and full power on the rocker switch in between the two dials, and on the right the sliding switch allows you to change it between timed, on and off. Timed makes use of the little clock, and you have to pull the pins out or push them in depending what time, and then the thermostat, if you set that low, it will click in, click out during the times you would like heat, but only if it's hot or cold enough. So the controls on this are quite good, but it will only use your expensive daytime electricity. This is a Dimplex Cxl. The C stands for combined. It is a combined storage heater. As you can see on the left, there are two switches supplying this storage heater. One of the switches will be your expensive daytime electricity, and the other one will be your off-peak stored electricity, your economy 7. The cheap off-peak electricity will heat the bricks and provide background heat, which will slowly leak out throughout the day and then only charge up again at night. The daytime electricity, which can be turned off to avoid accidental usage, is controlled by the rocker switch on the front. At the moment it's off, and if you turn it the other way it's on. And then the dial from 1 to 7 is a thermostat, but that will only use your expensive day rate electricity. Whilst the dials at the top, you have the damper on the left and the input on the right, which are numbered from 1 to 6, 6 being the maximum. The damper just opens and closes like a lid on a thermos flask to release heat. The ideal way to use this storage heater is to have the damper shut all the time, and then adjust your heat setting to the level you require. Obviously in the summer you can turn this storage heater off on both switches. In the winter it's much cheaper to use the dials at the back than the rocker switch at the front, because of day rate and night rate being different prices. Keep the damper shut, which is the dial on the right, on 0 or 1. That will retain the heat for longer. The storage heater will charge up faster overnight, losing less heat, and then lose less heat throughout the day, so then you have some heat left in the late afternoon to early evenings. You can then turn the dial up to 6, which opens the damper and lets the remaining heat out to heat the room. But remember, before going to bed, to shut it back down again so then it can charge. If anyone tells you to put it on 3 and 3, they don't know what they're talking about, because it will only half charge up and it will take a long time to charge up because it's losing heat as it's charging. So overnight you want the left-hand dial closed, which lowers the damper. Here's the operation of the damper. This is a dual immersion hot water tank. This is supplied by two types of electricity. The immersion at the top is supplied by the day rate electricity, which is on 24 hours a day. The best thing to do with this one is keep it turned off, as it will use expensive electricity. The lower immersion is the off-peak restricted or night supply. This supplies the hot water tank with cheaper electricity. Both immersions have a thermostat, so they will stop using electricity when the water is up to temperature. This can vary on what the setting is set to. To adjust the temperature settings, you can remove the 8mm screw on the covers, being careful to isolate the supply before, and then turn the dial from plus or minus to turn the temperature up or down, remembering to replace the lid and do up the 8mm bolt. The best way to use this hot water cylinder is to leave the off-peak immersion on, which will then only use electricity to heat up the water if it's not up to temperature, bringing it up to the temperature it's set to only at night, normally from 11:30 to 6:30 using your off-peak supply. If both switches are turned on as you use water during the daytime immersion will click in, heating up the water as you use it throughout the day. So when it comes to night time, when your cheap supply of electricity is due to turn on, the water is already warm. So all the work is done by the off-peak supply, doubling the price of your hot water. Correct usage is to have the peak rate, day or unrestricted supply turned off. That's the top one if you follow the wires. And leave the lower one on all the time. If you go away for a few days, no one's going to come into the house and run the taps. So the immersion is controlled by a thermostat. So the water in the tank will still be warm. So therefore it won't come on, or will only come on for a few minutes, bringing the temperature back up and then turning itself off. If you do go away for a few weeks, you could turn them both off, but I would do that a few days before going away and use your tank of hot water, because otherwise you're going away, turning it off and throwing an entire tank of hot water away. But then you must remember that on your return you will have no hot water, and you will have to turn the off-peak on and wait a full night before you have any hot water back again. If you turn the day rate on and top up the hot water, all the money that you have saved by having it all off and having no hot water will be lost, because you will be using your day rate to heat it back up again. And as I said before, that is charged at almost double the price of your nighttime electricity. Many thanks. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, and I will do some more reviews on other storage heaters. Bye.